Welcome back to Untaming Masculinity, the podcast where we tackle issues relevant to men and their journeys to reclaim their masculinity. I'm Dan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and good friend Brad. What's going on, man?
It's a morning. I my alarm didn't go off, and I woke up with a tickle in my throat, and here I am, kind of sick. We're starting this 25 minutes late, but we're good. How are you?
We'll get it done. I'm doing pretty good. The wife and kids are coming home today, so I'm happy for that. But it's been a pretty good week. I actually want to congratulate you.
Oh boy!
I don't know if you are aware, but this podcast will air March 2nd, 2023. And our first podcast went live in the end of February 2022. So we have officially hit the 1 year mark. So congratulations, sir.
Oh man, we're gonna have to have a party.
You'll have to get better first.
Yeah, you hear that come out in my voice. Jeez.
But yeah, I want to thank the guys for listening too. It's been a fun year, and I'm really excited to see where the next year brings us.
Yeah, likewise.
So we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and you had a pretty interesting story from your Uber night last night, huh? You want to share that?
Yeah. So Ubering is an interesting side gig. You get some interesting stories. You meet some interesting and sometimes kind of sad and tragic figures. And last night I picked up some kid. He's just turned 19, and he started talking to me a lot, and he started oversharing, and he told me a little bit about his story. He told me that about 6 months ago he got pulled over for a DUI. Oh, that's a bummer, man. So his license got suspended. I was like, okay, that makes sense why he's driving Uber. But the story didn't stop there. He proceeded to tell me that he has owned at some various point 19 cars. In the world, if you had 19 cars. It's like, part of the reason I have 19 cars is because
19?
Yeah, 19 cars at the age of 19.
And how old was he?
19. Just turned 19. He just flips through cars like crazy. And then he started telling me about some of these car stories. Like, yeah, some of the reason I've been flipping through cars is because I'll buy a car and then I'll drive the car. And mind you, this is post DUI on a suspended license. He'll drive a car. He'll get pulled over. Obviously, I think he's spent a little bit of time in jail. He's gotten some tickets. He just keeps driving cars on a suspended license. So now he has this court date set for Monday, like literally this coming Monday in 2 days. And he's like, man, I don't know, man. I could be going to jail. I could be spending some time behind bars. I'm like, well, that's terrible, man. Hopefully this is a lesson learned for you, right? Oh no, he keeps going. It's like, I'm picking up a car tomorrow. I'm hoping that the guy who sells it to me doesn't strip the plates and he leaves the plates on so I can drive it. Like, bro, you're an idiot. He's like, but if the guy, if he strips the plates off, I think I'm just going to sell it. His thought process, or this logic behind this bizarre decision making, was he felt that he needed a car to get to and from work. And that if he bought a car, whoever he buys it from leaves the plates on, he can commute to work. But he said, oh, it's okay because on Saturdays and Sundays when I go out drinking or when I go with my friends, I'll just get an Uber. I was like, dude, that is the most convoluted logic I've ever heard. So here's a kid facing down a court date on Monday where he could go to jail for 90, 180 days, thinking that he's going to buy a car this weekend so he could keep driving. And the reason he's going to jail is because of a suspended license that he keeps driving on. So it made me think of this concept of don't do stupid shit.
Yeah, that is definitely the definition of stupid shit. Although I will give him a little bit of credit. He's trying to find a way to get to work. So there's that.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, good for him for trying to get to work, right?
But yeah, the concept of don't do stupid shit really does play into, the overarching concept of integrity and doing what you say and being conscious of your decisions, right? We as men, I think, need to take that on more in the sense of you got to be mindful of your decisions. Like this kid, right? He's 19 years old. He flipped through 19 cars. He's obviously been picked up for Deweys a bunch of times. And right, like you said, he's facing jail time at this point for his decisions. He's lucky that he's facing jail time for Dewey related stuff and not for vehicular homicide or something more tragic.
Right.
Because, this is one of those play stupid games, win stupid prizes type scenarios. But, as men, we really need to be conscious of those decisions. So, what's your take on it? What's your history with this kind of a thing?
So, the concept of doing stupid shit. I have a very intimate relationship with doing stupid stuff. It's very easy to look at making bad choices as these big things, like driving on a suspended license, choosing to rob a convenience store. Yeah, those are stupid decisions, but stupid decisions are some of the tiniest and most trivial decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis. You think about when you go to work and you've got a whole bunch of stuff to do, but rather than actually working on your outstanding tasks, you choose to watch YouTube, or you choose to slack off and go talk to somebody in the kitchen for an hour. You think of the times where you're at home with your wife and your kids and you should be mowing the lawn, but you're like, nah, I'm just going to chill on the couch. Like, there are examples of doing stupid shit all over the spectrum. And if you really start to think about it, a man of integrity doesn't allow these situations to happen. But invariably, we all, as men, are imperfect creatures, and there's going to be examples.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that's very easily slept on, is when you do stupid things, there are consequences. So, Dan, talk to me about consequences, man.
Consequences. I've debated telling this story, but we're talking about playing stupid games and winning stupid prizes. So I'm going to tell a story about where I really learned about consequences. When I was in college, I went out for my birthday, my 21st birthday, and got completely inebriated. Went out. My birthday is right around St. Patrick's Day. So my buddies brought me out. We were drinking green beer. There was all kinds of fun and chaos. Had a great time. So when I came back to my buddy's apartment, we stopped. We had a few more drinks. And I had to get home because I had to go to work the next morning. At that point, I was working at a gas station, pumping gas on the weekends, basically just earning beer money. And the way it was set up was they were in this one apartment complex. I was in another, and there's a fence in between that had basically been broken down. And you could walk in between. So I'm walking back, and I was exhausted. I was whatever. So I said, I'm going to take I'm going to take a nap in the backseat of my car. So I crawl into the backseat of my car. I fall asleep. Undetermined amount of time later, I wake up and I look at the steering wheel and I go, I looked at the center console and I go, I don't have a Discman in my car. Now I'm dating myself by saying Discman, but it was one of those yellow Discman that plugged into the tape deck so you could play your CDs. And then I looked at the steering wheel and I go, I drive a Saturn. This is a Honda. Well, yep. I had fallen asleep in the back of somebody's car. So being the dumb drunk that I was, I got out of the car and I said, well, this guy's an idiot. He's going to run into a dead battery in the morning because I'm going to leave his door open. And then I decided to try 3 or 4 other cars, or 2 or 3 other cars. I don't know how many that were right next to it. None of them had their doors unlocked. So I said, screw it. I'm going to go home. I walk about 15 yards and I feel somebody tap me on the shoulder. And I'm like, just, the guy goes, no, I just want to talk to you about something. I'm like, hey, I gotta go. And he kind of like whips me around and he holds up a badge and he goes, Amherst PD, stop or I'll pepper spray you. And I just looked at him and went, oh shit. Long story short, I spent most of the night in jail. I got released on my own recognizance, but I had to go to court on Monday morning. In the meantime, I had to call my parents, which was lovely. I ended up getting charged on felony counts of B&E of an auto and attempted larceny under $250 because I picked up the CD player and went, that's not mine. So yeah, I went through that. Fortunately, the best part of the story was, my family has never really had like legal issues. And so we didn't know what to do. My dad's like scurrying around trying to find a lawyer to help us. So he goes up to this one lawyer and he's like, listen, I got this situation. My son, blah, blah, blah. And he starts to tell him the story. And the guy goes, sir, stop. And my dad's like, but we need help. And he's like, stop. He goes, I'm the ADA who's trying the case. He goes, you cannot be telling me any of this. And my heart just sank as I heard this guy say that. I'm like, I'm going to prison. So long story short, the ADA was actually a really good guy. He found us an attorney to help us. And the judge that I was in front of had instituted this new thing called he called it honor court. But basically what it was a weekend, he called it a weekend retreat. And what you did is you went to a halfway house. For those of you who don't know, a halfway house is where they release folks who have drug and alcohol abuse issues or arrests who have done time. So I went to this halfway house with guys who had just been released on drug and alcohol related charges. Everything from drunks like your Uber ride last night to, crack dealers from inner city of Boston. And we did a bunch of community service. I had to go to a bunch of AA, NA meetings for the weekend, basically from Friday night to Sunday night. I had to sleep there. And it was eye-opening to say the least. So you want to talk about consequences? That's my big life lesson in consequences and learning about, how the stupid prizes you can win if you play stupid games.
It's like halfway house, get scared straight.
Yeah, I slept. I always joke that I slept on my back with one eye open that weekend.
Man, yeah, almost fell in Dan. Interesting.
Yeah, scared me straight. Got my best grades after that, so it worked.
Just the whole Discman thing. That's hilarious.
Yeah, well, it was early 2000s. So
no. It's not the timing. Like I'm old. I'm not as old as you, but like just the whoa, what is this? I don't know.
It was yeah.
And the cop happened to observe that. That's just amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure he was just looking at it going, "Oh, I've got a winner tonight."
My night just got interesting. But yeah, that's consequences. Here's the thing. With this whole idea of do stupid stuff, win stupid prizes, it's not even just this big stuff. It's not getting drunk and sleeping in the wrong car. It's not driving on a suspended license. It's consciously choosing to lie to your wife. It's consciously choosing to yell at your kids. It's constantly choosing to flirt with that girl you see at work. It's constantly choosing to eat that candy bar when you know that you need to get yourself in shape. Every single one of those decisions, every single one has a consequence in some way. And what's so comical and fascinating is that for guys, I mean, unless you've made this realization for yourself and you're truly doing the work on yourself and you have some self-awareness, you think that you can get away with this stuff scot-free. How many guys out there yell at their wife or lie to their wife or kick their dog and think it's all right? That's just what we do. Like this is who I am.
Yeah.
What invariably happens, even if you kick your dog's going to be terrified of you. Like if you lie to your wife, you're going to sow seeds of distrust. You're going to erode her confidence in you, and that's going to damage your marriage. If you neglect your kids, if your kids see you staring at your phone, if your kids don't see you showing up to their games, what message does that tell them? I must not be important. And every single one of us, I don't care who you are, has countless examples of little things. I'm not saying we all kick our dogs, we're not beating our wives, but the little things. Like I should be playing with my kids, but I'm looking at my phone. I'm at work and I've got a whole bunch of stuff to do, but the cute girl in the office walks by and I want to go flirt with her. Mm-hmm. We've all done small things like that. I don't necessarily know if all of us have either, one, weighed the consequences, or two, seen those consequences manifest and then decided to do something about it.
So here's what I was thinking about the whole time you're talking about that. The things that you described, right? Lying to your wife, yelling at your kids, doing stuff at work when you should be working. Those are all little things that aggregate into a bigger result.
Yes.
When we use the term do stupid shit, to me, that implies like the bigger life decisions, like your Uber ride last night, who just decides he's going to keep driving shit face or drive with plates that aren't his own, where he can really get, an immediate bad result from that one action. So in my mind, we're talking about two separate things. I'm not downplaying the stuff that you were talking about, but it's, to me, there's a little bit of a difference because the lying to your wife and stuff, it's not going to, that one lie, while it's not a good decision at all, is not going to have the detrimental effect of getting hammered and falling asleep in somebody else's car to your life that you're going to have. It's going to you're going to have a history and a repeated choice of that stuff.
And that's honestly, that's where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Like one lie is rarely remains one lie,
Right.
right? Like we're talking about, as is the case with anything, if you do something once and you haven't done any sort of restitution, it's a very charged word these days. Jeez. If you haven't like done the time, right? Oftentimes you justify doing it again.
Well, yeah,
Like,
I'm going to do this. Oh, I didn't get caught. I didn't get punished. Pfft, I can keep doing this.
We sit here on this call with me having a history of lying to my wife. I was a habitual chronic liar for things great and small for years. It all started with one lie. And then, oh, I lied. I thought I got away with it. I thought we're good. The funny thing is, I didn't get away with it. My wife knew. She just overlooked it. But in my head, I got away with it. So it happened again and again and again and again and again and again and again over the course of years. And then the catastrophic, stupid shit. Yeah, it's not a DUI, but it's I'm hanging out of my marriage by a thread because of choices that I made.
Right.
That's where those consequences come into play.
So what we're talking about here is the aggregation of small bad decisions,
right,
and what it can result in the end.
Yeah,
and that's 100% true. I mean, we've all seen it, like you said. We've all fallen into that trap of, oh, I got away with it, so why do I need to change my behavior? Well, first of all, you need to change your behavior because are you a man of integrity? Are you making those right choices when no one's looking or no one seemingly cares?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
What's the value in that? The value in that is that you can sleep at night, you can look yourself in the mirror, and you know that you're making the right choice regardless of whether somebody gives a shit or not.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's important to point out too that we're not sitting here preaching. I still fall into this on occasion where I'm going, oh, you know what? I'm tired. It's been a long week. I'm just going to do the bare minimum, or I'm just going to kind of half-ass whatever it is I'm doing around the house just to kind of get it done.
Yeah.
Instead of, the right way to do this is to, the more formal process. I'm absolutely grasping at straws right now. I was thinking about cleaning out my sink, right? We've got these like grates that sit in the bottom of our sink so that the dishes don't sit like on the bottom of the sink and everything can kind of like flow through.
Okay.
And every once in a while you got to clean the bottom of the sink. But the other day I was exhausted. I'm like, oh, I'll just take the spray head and just spray everything out. Whereas it takes literally 5 more seconds to pick the grate up, use a sponge and a little bit of soap and actually clean the sink the right way and put everything back together again. Right. In the grand scheme of things, am I gonna get divorced over not cleaning the sink the right way? No. But that is going to lead me to other decisions where I half-ass the motion. And eventually that is going to make me show up as a man without integrity.
Yeah. I mean, let's reverse engineer even that sink scenario for a second. What led you to doing that way? Like why did you choose in your mind to not take it apart, do it the right way?
Because I was tired and I was lazy and I didn't want to clean.
I was tired, you were lazy, and you didn't want to clean. You justified it to yourself, right? It's like,
yep.
It's good enough.
Yeah, it's good enough. Yeah. I'll get it tomorrow. That's my big one, right? Put the dishes in the sink instead of in the dishwasher. I'll get them tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
It's literally just as easy to put it in the dishwasher right away.
Yeah. And you're out 5 more
I hope
seconds.
my wife doesn't listen to this because she'll be on my ass about that one all the time. But
yeah, I'm thinking, I'm like, oh boy, there's so many scenarios where I'm in the same boat. But that's the kicker. You make these decisions or these justifications in your head to start you down the slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
She's never going to know. She doesn't need to know. Nobody needs to know. My boss doesn't need to know. My kids don't need to know. Or I'm just so tired right now. I deserve this. How often do I find myself staring at my phone when I'm tired or frustrated because I deserve a second to myself? Like when I come home from work and my kids are young. They want to climb all over me and play. And there's just some days where I'm like, man, I'm so tired. I had a long day at work today. My kids, I love them, but they're so full of energy and they're driving me crazy right now. I'm just going to sit on the couch and look at my phone because I justify to myself, you know what? I deserve this.
I've worked hard. I provide. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like here's a fascinating thing that I think about sometimes, and I'm probably vocalizing this for the first time. And if my wife listens to this, she's going to roll her eyes. But there's so many times when I choose to, not do the dishes adequately, when I don't take the garbage out, when I lie to her, when I don't do the things that I say that I'm going to do, when I tell her X and I do Y, I sit there and I think, wow, why? And justification is the first thing that comes out. I deserve this because I work hard. I provide for this family. I make a lot of money. I deserve that. I've earned the right to be able to do this. Look at the things that she does. She got to go spend some time with her friend, because she got to spend some time with her friend. I deserve this.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be a lie, whether it be being dishonest, whatever it is, I choose to not show up and not perform my best as a husband. And that initial thought is justification. That somehow I have this false idea that I deserve it. That's a dangerous precedent. We're setting ourselves up for an epic collapse if we actually entertain that, believe our shit.
So in engineering, whether it's fluids or electricity, we have this concept of path of least resistance. Electricity or water is going to flow through the path of least resistance. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what's happening when we make these little decisions is we are trying to find the path of least resistance. Is it easier to just take the trash out of the can and put the bag at the top of the stairs and go, oh, I'll get it next time I walk outside? That's the path of least resistance. Whereas it literally takes 5 extra seconds to walk out to the garage, throw it in the can, and come back. The big one that everyone always talks about. You heard the Navy officer in the speech talk about making your bed in the morning. Yep. This one gets me all the time because I never make my bed. But making your bed in the morning, and that argument of, oh, I'm just going to sleep in it again tonight, that is a path of least resistance. Right? Because when you get into bed, what is more comfortable to get into? A big ruffled up bed that's a hot mess, or a nice, clean made bed? Right? And it takes 2 minutes to make a bed? I mean, even with all the pillows my wife has. That's what we're talking about. In his book Sovereignty, Ryan Michler talks about the concept of the natural man. And that's really what we're getting at here is fighting this natural man. The natural man wants the path of least resistance. He wants to do the bare minimum. He wants to make the decisions that are easy in the moment, as opposed to building the resolve within oneself to do what's right, regardless of whether it's easier.
And every single one of us, unless you're a sociopath, we have a conscience. We have something within us that provides us guiding principles. We know when we make these mistakes or make these choices that we shouldn't. We feel it. There's a moment where you recognize that, regardless of what the situation is. Like you've got this sanity check in your head saying, you need to do the right thing. Don't blow past it. Mm-hmm. Now I understand there are plenty of guys who are listening to this who have blown past that more times than they can count. And a lot of those men, that manifests in damaged marriages, damaged homes, fraught careers. And it can be easy to say, I've never made the right choice. I can't do it. How do I start? How do I begin? Coming back to the book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, Robert Glover considers every man who's overcome being a nice guy, or has never fully overcome it, but he considers them recovering nice guys. So I would deem myself a recovering nice guy. And there are a lot of men within the Iron Council and on my battle team that are earlier on in their journey of identifying that they're a nice guy and trying to do something. And the common theme, I felt this exact same way, was how the hell do I even begin? Where do I start? I don't know if I can do that, because they've chosen the path of least resistance every single time. It's all that they've ever done. They've never, ever done anything that required any sort of standing up and doing something hard, staring down fear and doing something difficult. And I tell every single one of them, the only thing you can do is tackle the first hard thing in front of you head on and then go from there. So it starts with a conscious choice. When you're presented with this dilemma of, I've justified this, I've earned this, or I don't want to do that, or do the right thing, which every single one of us will receive with this fancy little thing inside of us called a conscience, just do the right thing. Do it once. It could be painful, especially if you're in a situation or a relationship where you've hurt your wife over the course of years. It's going to be extremely painful because she has all this pent-up frustration, anger, anxiety. And some of that can manifest when you finally start to do the right thing, and it can come out in a nasty way. I say this from firsthand experience. Like, all that pent-up hurt starts to come out, but do it. The next hard thing that gets in the way, do it again. Repeat, so repeat.
We bring everything, somehow or another, we bring everything back to physical fitness. But this is a lot like the guy who's very out of shape and he goes, where do I start? I got the diet and I got the workouts and I got the supplements and all this. Go for a walk. Go for a 10-minute walk. and do it again and again and again and again. And eventually you start to make headway. And you're right. Your wife, just because you do one hard thing or one right thing, we'll say, she's not going to change immediately and gush over you and be like, "Oh, you're a changed man. You're so much better.
You're the best.
You
I love you." No.
You have to make those repetitive motions so that there's proof of change. And she may never actually even acknowledge it, but I guarantee the relationship will get better.
Real progress in anything requires pain.
Yeah.
Physical, mental, emotional, literally anything in which you want to become proficient in. You want to get good at the guitar. There's a whole lot of pain as you build those calluses in your fingertips. A lot of pain mentally as you're trying to learn how to do things like the F chord. You think about the gym. You want to get in shape. You want to be able to bench press, let's just say 315, pretty lofty number. That requires literal physical pain. You want to grow in your career. Like that requires the pain of challenging yourself and pushing yourself past preconceived limits, putting yourself in positions to succeed. There's some pain there. There can be some difficult conversations along the way. You think about raising a child and doing it the right way.
Oh.
There's pain because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to see your kids suffer. Those things hurt. Like there's nothing more painful to me as a dad than when I see my kids, get hurt emotionally in some capacity. Like my daughter goes to school and this person she thought she was a friend is mean to her. It breaks my heart.
Yeah. The most pain I've had experiencing child rearing is when I lose my cool and I see the pain that it induces on them. And just, I've gotten better with it, but, especially when they were little, I would lose my cool and it would build and build and I would just eventually just pop off and there would be fear in their eyes at a certain point. Never touched them, never anything like that. But I would just, the emotions would build and it would just explode. And you would just see them like cower in the corner because dad yelled so much.
Yeah.
That is pain for a parent. But you learn from those experiences. If you're able to review that and kind of go through it and go, okay, maybe I don't have the capability right now to express my feelings in the moment. And I just need to walk away and cool down so that I can come back and be the parent that they need. That's better than the blowing up. Yeah. So it's making those hard decisions right in the moment, because it was much easier just to pop off and yell and get the entire family to fall in line to whatever we're supposed to be doing by being the asshat than walking away, calming down, and coming back and approaching it in a civil manner.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I may have shared this on a previous episode, but there was a time last year when I lost my cool due to I was impatient and there were things going on at work and my daughter wanted to play with me. And I was like, I don't have time right now. And she made some comment about wanting a snack and it triggered me. And I took my phone and I threw it as hard as I could at the ground right in front of her. Shattered my screen, traumatized her. I just remember looking at her eyes and her face of terror.
Yep.
And it was one of the most harrowing things in my life. And it was painful, unbelievably painful. And to this day, she still probably brings it up once a week. Hey, Dad, remember that time you threw your phone to the ground? And every time she brings it up, I feel pain because of that decision I made.
Yep.
And this comes full circle. Going back to those stories of drunk Dan looking at CD players, sleeping in the wrong car, me picking up some kid who's facing down jail time and feels that he's going to buy a car. I have countless examples of this. One of the funny things is a part-time side hustling Uber driver is you always get people get in the car and they're like, man, I bet you have so many crazy Uber stories. There's kind of it's known that for some reason people get in my car and they start telling me about their life stories and how many stories are depressing. Like I can't tell you how many stories I've had with people who've had DUIs. There was a guy who had a DUI, refused to blow the breathalyzer. So they gave him a blood test and they found cocaine in his system. So he lost his CDL, had a felony, lost everything. And here's a man in his mid-40s. Just his life is a total train wreck because of that decision that he made. Yes, these are extreme examples, but it's the matter of there were certain things in their lives where they were presented with a choice to do that or not.
And what got them to that point, right?
Right.
Did he just start being a drunk who was snorting coke? Probably not. Right? He probably started by making small, easy choices as opposed to thinking it through and doing the right thing versus the easy thing. And that cascaded into the guy that got into your car that night.
Yeah. And the same could be said for so many countless examples of guys. As men, it's easy to look at some guy like that and say, man, what a freaking loser. What an absolute piece of shit. He's ruined his life. It's easy to look at guys in jail and say, what a loser. I would never be that guy. Yet here we are consistently doing stupid stuff that directly impacts our lives when we could just take a moment and realize, I got to change. I got to start doing the hard things. Men who do hard things become men of character.
Oh,
I mean, it might be a little reductive, but
I'm gonna
okay, challenge me on it.
I'm gonna challenge you a little bit there.
Yeah,
and it's not necessarily doing the hard things, but it's doing the right things.
Okay.
And typically, the right thing is the hard thing, but it's making the right choice.
Okay.
Sometimes the right thing is the easier thing, and you get a win. You get an easy win, but for the most part, the right thing is typically the harder thing because it involves a little more effort.
That's a very good distinction. Yeah, you're right. It's a much better way of putting it.
It's a tough thing. And listen, like I said before, we don't claim to be perfect on this at all. This is something that you spend your entire life working on and striving for. The difference, I'll say, is that once you're conscious of it, which I believe both of us are, you start to make the choices a little bit more clearly because you're sitting there and every decision is going, okay, is this the right thing or is this the easy thing?
Yeah.
And you start to pick and choose. And listen, you're not going to be 100% perfect. You're going to fall off the wagon on this. It's just like eating right. It's just like working out. It's just like all of that stuff. There are going to be days where shit happens, you fall off. The important thing is to keep getting back on the horse and keep being conscious of the decision making and keep moving forward with the best intentions available. I
cannot emphasize what you just said enough. We're not sitting here pretending we've got to figure it out. I mean, part of the reason I wanted to talk about this was, when I was driving that guy around, I started thinking about me and my life and stupid stuff that I do and stupid things that I've done. And that kid, at some point, it all just started with a stupid choice that was followed up with other stupid choices and how it can quickly spiral. And what that means is, going back to Dan's point, we all are going to do stupid stuff. It's not like you flip the switch and do a few hard things or right things, make some right choices, and then you're fixed. You're still going to do something stupid. It's going to happen. But if that could be an isolated incident and you can learn from it and move forward, that will define you as a man. We're all going to do stupid stuff. My wife is mad at me for a series of stupid things I did literally 2 days ago. It happens. But I learned from it. I did a lot of self-reflection, looked inside and said, okay, what caused that? What am I going to do to make sure that does not happen?
This conversation reminds me of something my dad used to tell me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager in high school and stuff. And he'd look at me and just go, think of the worst possible thing that could happen, and it probably will. And I used to just roll my eyes every time he said it. And I still think it's kind of a very pessimistic look on life.
Yeah.
But it plays well into what we're talking about in that if you start making these bad choices or these easy choices and you continuously make them, they're going to compound and aggregate into bad results.
Exactly. Like
so
that kid,
maybe old Vinny wasn't as corny as I thought he was when I was a kid.
He knew a thing or two, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, man. Well, this has been a good discussion. I appreciate it. This was an interesting topic to bring up, and I hope the guys got a lot out of it. I know I enjoyed sharing it. Maybe not the arrest story, but I enjoyed sharing most of it.
I have a new nickname I might pull out for you at some point. I have to riff on it, but I don't know. Something about being an almost felon. There's something there. I have to work on it.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, we want to thank the guys for listening. Right, it's been a good year so far. We're looking forward to bringing another full year of great podcasts here. Make sure you're checking us out at untamingmasculinity.com for all of our show notes. If you find value in this podcast at all, we really would appreciate a rating and review. iTunes has been picking up a little bit lately in terms of the ratings and reviews, so we appreciate that. What that does is it plays into the magic of their algorithms and helps us spread the word to other guys and get us seen by other people who are looking, through the podcast player. So we appreciate that. And finally, make sure you're checking us out and come back next week for more great content. Until then, we'll leave you with just one question. What are you doing to untame your masculinity?